Welcome back to another episode of Building the Pride. I'm your host, Drew, and today we are going to be talking about victory over the Dallas Cowboys. So let me just update our scrolling banner, and we will get going here. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. Someday AI will just do all this for me. Oh, that's the wrong one. All right. There we go. Oh, not week 7. Oh, my God. What was it? Week 14? Okay. So where was this last Thursday, right? Thanksgiving. The Lions looked completely fantastic on offense this last Thursday here. Dallas came to Detroit. It was an absolute shootout between these two teams. Detroit continues their win-loss streak that they've been doing here for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks in a row. We've had some kind of win-loss back and forth. So they're playing 500 balls since week 5. Next up, we have the Rams in Los Angeles. Somehow at 8-5, we are third in the division. Just doesn't seem fair. Why can't the NFC North be bad with everybody except us? Ho-hum. So let's take a look at the game just real quickly. Lions were 3 for 8 on third down. The fact that they had how many? 57. They only had 57 plays on offense. By contrast, the Cowboys had 76 plays. So 50% as many, again, than the Lions. And the Lions won by 2 scores. 3 for 8 on third down is not great, but I think it is better than what they have been doing over this stretch. The Lions are a first and second down team. If they are getting a first down, they're largely doing it on first and second down. I looked at some stats through week 12 that about the Lions' third down conversion percentage and fourth down conversion percentage this year compared to last year. And both the Lions' ability to convert on third and fourth down and their opponent's ability to convert on third and fourth down are going in the wrong direction this year. So I think that's a big reason why the team is struggling, is the team basically has gone from this kind of methodical down and distance team under Ben Johnson to this kind of first and second down, getting all the yards or having an explosive play and then not being able to have the right down and distance or the right play call, or who knows what the situation might be on some of these third down calls, but they are not doing a very good job, not a good enough job, I think, to win the division, beat really quality teams, and take over. So let's continue on with the game review here. The tail of this game is the offense. So the Lions averaged 7.2 yards per play. It's pretty amazing. We had 100 rushing yards. They 8 penalties, now only for 50 yards. In comparison, Dallas had 7 penalties for 76 yards. So not as egregious yardage wise, but still pretty poor with the number of penalties. Now, and I will say, and I am not one to complain about referees or umpires in professional sports outside of baseball, where they're just completely terrible. But I thought the refereeing on in this game on both sides was really bad. There was a very weird offensive pass interference call against Dallas, and I'm having trouble. I should have written this all down, and there were numerous other calls that I'm like, the safety that Detroit had on Dak Prescott. It seems like Dak Prescott has some kind of angel on his shoulder when it comes to not taking safeties against the Detroit Lions. So 3 years ago, we were playing. This was the Dan Skipper didn't check in game or what have you, and Derek Barnes had to right like 3 yards deep in the end zone and just can't tackle him. Now Dak's a pretty big guy, but that's Derek Barnes's job, and then instead of getting a safety, they hit CeeDee Lamb, who had on a broken coverage. He got like a 92-yard touchdown or some crazy number. And then in this game, Dak is clearly in the end, but they ruled forward progress, and the ball was, I guess, completely outside. I'll see if I can find it. Maybe we can take a look at it together just real quickly. They ruled that Dak Prescott the ball was completely past the line when his forward progress was stopped. And I don't understand that, because if it's a running back with the ball, they let a huge rugby, and they let the lineman push the ball carrier forward all the time now. But when Dak Prescott gets tackled in the end zone, this is the split second when his forward progress was stopped. I don't understand. Let's see if I can spell Dak correctly. Dak Prescott, safety. Yeah, okay. So let's click on this, and then I got to share it. Once again, Mike, it has an extremely busy December, and so he's not with us right now. Otherwise, he would be doing this, and this would all be a lot faster. And all right.
As a blitz pickup running back, but give Jack Campbell a lot of credit. He went right by him, brought one more than they could handle. And
so let's look at this. Hang on one second.
Finishing it with a big sack.
Let's start at the beginning.
They've had trouble getting
okay, so there he is. They ruled that's his forward progress.
Really good job. They bring 6. You bring 6, you get some.
Jack Campbell gets him.
Javonte Williams,
Hutch is getting there quick.
As a blitz pickup running back, but give Jack Campbell a lot of credit. He went right by.
So they ruled that's his forward progress.
Campbell's ends up finishing it with a big sack. Good to see if you're a Lions fan. They got after. Again, they've had trouble getting after the quarterback these last few weeks. They bring Campbell, who does a really good job. They bring
Let's see
6.
This next shot. I think is
You get some one-on-one matchups, and Javonte Williams.
So look where the ball is.
As a blitz pickup.
If the ball's on the line, it's a safety. And they said it was clearly not a safety. I don't understand it. Now Detroit got the ball back and scored a touchdown. So it's kind of hard to be like, no, it didn't work out for us. But I always want 2 points, and then for them to punt the ball from the 20. Remember, there was also that play earlier in the season where Detroit had a safety. They punted the ball, and because the ball fell outside the live area, I believe it's called, there was a I think it's unsportsmanlike. No, it's not unsportsmanlike. It must be unsportsmanlike. There was like a 15-yard penalty, and the Lions got the ball in the 10. So a safety leads to that happening. I have a hard time believing that Detroit wouldn't score the ball from the 10-yard line anyways, or what have you. We have some relatively good special teams players, on this team. I think that, Detroit would have had a really good shot at scoring another touchdown. So anyways, I think that was a missed. I think this was a bad call. I just think it was a bad call. If you notice the Twitter feed or whatever, I refuse to call it X. The Twitter feed is at Rate the Refs. So if you want to go there and check them out, they might have more hey, the refs are doing a bad job stuff if that's your bag. Yeah, so I thought the refereeing was poor all the way around in this game. But I mean, other than that, like Detroit had all the stats point to Detroit being the superior offensive team in this game. So, and the Cowboys turned the ball over 3 times. They lost a fumble and Dak threw 2 picks. Now, I believe one of those was a tip ball, but it goes down on his stat sheet as a pick. So, this was the Sean Hockley refereeing. So if you hear the name Hockley and in a Detroit Lions football game, you might want to be like, ooh, we might be in for some rough officiating. So, okay. So, but good job for Detroit. Held strong. Offense looked better. What else can we do? Oh, let's talk about Frank Ragnow. So, we have a little bit more information on Frank Ragnow. I'm going to bring up the Pride of Detroit article that references Hank Fraley, their offensive line coach, and I believe co-offensive coordinator now. I forget what they gave him another title in the offseason, and I don't remember what it is. All right, so let's take a look here. Okay, on Wednesday, Detroit's offensive line coach Hank Fraley offered a little more insight into the crazy week that included Ragnow coming out of retirement to go back, and then only to go back into retirement upon failing his physical. The All-Pro center was revealed to have a grade 3 hamstring sprain that would have prevented him from playing in 2025 anyways. So grade 3, from what I understand, means that the hamstring has almost come or completely come off of the bone. Like it is the worst hamstring strain. And so, the article says this, that like, the fact that Frank Ragnow thought that he could still go and that he just tweaked his hamstring is kind of an indication as to how tough he is physically as a human being. Like he tore his hamstring off the bone and was like, nah, I just tweaked it. I can still go. Like as a point of comparison, I tore my bicep a couple of years ago off the bone and my body went into shock. My body went into shock and my dad had to like carry me to the car. I'm like close to 300 pounds. And like my dad had to like carry me to the car, get me into the car, and then take me to the emergency room. And then they scheduled me for surgery. So Frank Ragnow, I'm not a professional football player, mind you, but Frank Ragnow's just like, no, I can go. It's cool. You know, like it just happened on the back of his leg as opposed to like on his arm. So pretty crazy. Okay, so here's what we want to get to. If it remains unclear if Ragnow has any interest in returning to football in the future, but Fraley said he believes the 29-year-old has plenty in him to still play. And if he ever expresses the desire to come back through that tunnel, Fraley would be welcoming him back with open arms. Ragnow has remained silent since the ordeal during Thanksgiving. He has yet to post any kind of social media appearance, nor has he made a post since he was taken off and put back on the reserve retired list. The Lions have publicly said they have not had any of those conversations with Ragnow. I got to tell you, if Frank Ragnow, if there is any chance that Frank Ragnow wants to come and play next season, that is option 1 for the Detroit Lions. So I also can't believe that he's 29. I mean, it feels like he has been here literally forever. And he's not 30. You know, next season would be his age 30 season. So they I know that like there have been, it's either the university or some kind of sports science organization has done a study on the effects of when professional athletes take 1 year off from playing, like in the middle of their careers, like the mental and physical stress that they deal with as a part of playing professional sports, it takes a real toll. And the study found that, like, on average, if somebody like the situation that Frank Ragnow finds himself in, if he has this year off, gets healthy, I mean, he was still taking care of himself. I don't know that he ever really thought, I'm never going to play football again. So like him taking this year off, getting healthier, and he might come back next season. 1 year deal. Let's take a run at a Super Bowl kind of a thing. That would be excellent for the Lions. I mean, like that at that point, if you want to move Tate Ratledge, you could go into the season and say, Frank, you're welcome to be here as long as you want to be here. We're going to cross train Ratledge. Can you teach him how to play center in case, at some point in the future you decide you don't want to be playing football any longer? And or you could draft. You could use a day 2 pick on a center, or sign a center. I would use a day 2 pick on a center and say, we're going to get your body right and basically have the kind of built-in backup plan that Brad Holmes usually likes to have at some of these position groups, and have a plan in place for the next 5 years, or 3, 4, or 5 years, something like that. That would be great. What else can we do here? Let's see if we can do the playoff predictor here. Playoff machine. Why doesn't it automatically add it? Okay, so Detroit is 1 game closer to the playoffs. They did what they had to do in beating the Dallas Cowboys, and now we're going to Rams. And the Los Angeles Rams are a lot of people's quote unquote pick right now to win the Super Bowl. Okay, so let's see what happens if the Rams win this game. All right, so we'll take Tampa, Philly. This is an interesting. I'll take the Patriots because they're really good. I'll take Seattle. I cannot stand the Bengals, so that's kind of a cheap pick here. I'll take the Broncos over the Packers because the Packers are at the Broncos. I'll take the Jags. I'll take the Niners. I will take the Chargers to knock the Chiefs out of the playoffs. I'll take the Panthers in that one. I will take the Texans, the Bears, the Cowboys. This is an interesting game. I'm going to give it to the Giants because it's at home, and I'm going to give it to the Dolphins, who are playing really well right now. Okay, LA at Seattle. If Seattle really wants to lock up the ability to win or like get into the playoffs, I think they need to win this game. I'm going to say this. I'm going to give the Panthers the win over the Bucs. The Bucs lost to the Saints last week, and that's just not very good. The Eagles, I'm going to take the Dolphins again. Yeah, there's no way that puts them in the playoffs. I'm going to say Green Bay beats the Bears. Denver over the Jags. I'm going to give this one to the Jets, although I don't know who's going to be playing quarterback. This is another crazy game because both of these two teams are so beat up at quarterback. I'm going to give this one to the Falcons. Bills, Texans, Chiefs over the Titans. Detroit wins at home against Pittsburgh. I feel like, and I know this can't be true, but I just feel like the Chargers played the Cowboys. I'll give it to the Chargers. I'll give this one to the Patriots. I'm going to give that one to the Giants, weirdly, and then the Niners. So if Seattle wins, they knock the Rams. They probably take over the division. So if the Rams win, it switches and nothing else switches. Okay, so Detroit, if they lose to the Rams next week in week 15 and then win against the Steelers, they're not in the playoffs. Okay, so week 17. Where are the Lions? Where are you? At the Vikings. Got to win this one. Okay, Dallas beats not the Redskins. That's racist. The Commanders. I'm going to say Jacksonville beats the Colts, who aren't playing very well right now. Miami at home. Denver over the Chiefs. Seattle over the Panthers. I'm going to give this one to the Chargers because it's at SoFi. I hate doing it. Bengals there. Probably Green Bay. let's have Vegas win a game. It doesn't matter. Bills. Ooh, I'm going to give it to the Browns, actually. Jets, Niners, Titans, Rams. Okay, so if the Lions lose to the Rams, beat the Steelers at home, beat the Vikings on the road, they would be the 7th seed and then have to go play the Packers. All right, week 18. Rams, Cowboys, Broncos, Bengals, Chiefs, Lions, Pats. I'm going to say the Saints for fun. Eagles, Bills. I'd like to say the Ravens. Why not? I'll say the Ravens. Packers. Ooh, Seattle and San Francisco. That's going to be an interesting game. I'll say Seattle. I really like Seattle. I think Seattle might be the most fun team to watch in the NFL this year. If you like watching good defense, they are just a lot of fun to watch. Okay, so here we go. So we have loss at the Rams and then them winning out, right? So let's see. If they lose to the Bears, they don't make the playoffs, right? If they lose to, so we put this back to them beating the Bears. If they lose to the Vikings, they make the playoffs if they beat Chicago. If they lose to the Steelers, okay. So what it looks like is the Lions if the Lions lose to the Rams, they have to win 2 out of their last 3, probably have to beat Chicago, right? So it probably comes down to that. So now I don't think that the Steelers are just a pushover, and for whatever reason, like who is the quarterback right now of the Minnesota Vikings? Is JJ hurt? Let's see. Home. Here we go. Minnesota. Roster. John Wolford is the guy that they signed. So Brosmer played completely terrible in his one outing. McCarthy, I know, is out again. And then Wolford must be their practice squad guy. So I think that there's a real path here, even if the Lions are unsuccessful this coming Sunday at in Los Angeles. So let's see. Teams, Lions, 12-14. That's 3 days from now. 2-3, which is a Sunday. So this Sunday at 4:25, the Lions, if they win that game, which I think that they can, it does, I think, an unbelievable amount to help their playoff odds. So fingers crossed. All right. So this Lions team is beat up, right? Let's take a look at what the health is here real quick for the Lions. So this is as of yesterday, Wednesday's practice. So Shane Zylstra, they've opened his evaluation clock. Now he's tight end 3, right? So remember, Sam Laporta is on IR, and Brock Wright had a trachea injury, which is just sounds horrible. And Brock Wright is eligible to return in week 18, which is the last week of the season, which would be at the Bears. Yeah. Giovanni Manu, he was working with trainers. They have not opened his window. Christian Mahogany has started his injury evaluation clock, so there is a chance that he could return this season, which would be, I think, probably a bonus. I mean, Coyote Owashika has been filling in. And Terrion Arnold had season-ending shoulder surgery. So hopefully Terrion will be fixed up and ready to go to start next season. Taylor Decker didn't practice on Wednesday because shoulder, but that's been going on most of the season. Alex Anzalone was sick, so we'll have to see about his availability for Sunday, depending on what kind of illness he had. Oh, and one thing we didn't talk about with the Dallas game, we lost Brian Branch for the season with an Achilles. He had successful surgery on his Achilles, I believe, yesterday. But this is a we'll have to see what his recovery window looked like. Remember last year at this time, Ali McNeil, Rodrigo, and who else? Somebody else all went down with like season-ending injuries. So I wouldn't be looking to get Brian Branch back until at least halfway through next season. And then coupled with like the Kirby Joseph continuing knee issues, there's now some real questions about this, which looked like last year looked like one of the best in the NFL. And they've already committed to Kirby Joseph, and I can't imagine they're not going to re-sign Brian Branch, but they have to re-sign Brian Branch this offseason. I believe he's eligible for an extension, and because he was a second-round pick, you can't pick up an option. You could franchise tag him, I suppose. So we'll just have to see what they do there. Like, the timing of this injury makes it pretty difficult. Okay, so Campbell said they're always going to give you 8 to 12 months as a recovery window. So 8 to 12 months would put August, somewhere between August and December of next season. And if you split the difference, it's October, maybe early November. So it's going to be a while before we see Brian Branch again, unfortunately. Sione Vaki was at practice. Khalif Raymond returned to practice off his ankle injury. Shane Zylstra was there. Mahogany was there, as we kind of talked about. Awo Shika himself didn't practice Tuesday, practiced Wednesday, as did Kirby Joseph. And Thomas Harper is still, I believe, going through the concussion protocol. Harper suffered a concussion on the second play of Week 14, was forced from the game. A return to practice suggests he is progressing through the NFL's concussion protocol, but he likely needs to cross a few more steps before he is cleared to return. So I don't know who like the third or fourth string safety is on the team. I believe they cut Eric Hallett. We'll take a look at over the cap here in a second to see like who's on the practice squad right now. No longer on the injury report. St. Brown is off the injury report. He looked pretty good against the Cowboys. Kind of a surprise. Penei Sewell is off the injury report. His shoulder appears to be, it says Sewell's been nursing a few injuries for the last month and a half, so 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And the Lions have preferred to take things easy with him. Glasgow, who's also returning to practice, has also been dealing with his own ailments the last few weeks, but has also been able to get through and start at center. Both should be good to go. And then as far as the Rams are concerned, like Devontae Adams did not practice on Wednesday due to a hamstring, and Byron Young has a knee. So we'll have to see. I mean, but once again, this is the Lions have a litany of injuries, nagging injuries at this time, and the teams that they're playing against just don't have nearly as many. They have some, but they just don't have nearly as many. So it looked just... I would like it if the Lions were at least, if it was like an equitable injury situation, which of course would be a vast improvement for Detroit, when it comes to how they're matching up against their opponents. But the team has good depth now. I think we've been impressed with players, especially like in the secondary Okay, so PFF grades from the Dallas game. Top of the offensive rankings, Penei Sewell leading the way once again with just an excellent run blocking grade. Penei's great. I love Penei, but he is a better run blocker, clearly. than he is a pass blocker, and that's usually because he can get out on the edge and run with so many. He's so athletic that he can run with a lot of guys. Jamison Williams had another great game. I know that St. Brown was back, but Jamison Williams looks like a guy that if your number one goes down, you can feed him the ball, and he ran such a nice, I don't think it was a comeback, button hook or comeback route. Like he drove past, I think it was Deron Bland, and just stopped on a dime and switched around, and Goff had it right there on his hands as soon as he turned. And it was like an 18-yard completion. And I was like, this is great. Like, this is the kind of thing that you can do with him, that isn't a 9 route. Like those receivers and those, like the corners and those safeties have to respect the fact that if it looks like he's got his head down and he's just, striding, as fast as he can, that they gotta protect the deep ball, and so then if he can get two guys, he's effectively double teamed. If you can get two guys and you stop and come back a little bit and run those like dig routes or comebacks or button hooks or whatever they call them, like what a great tool for his tool belt. Like I think these last couple games have demonstrated like what Detroit wants Jamison Williams to be as a wide receiver. And to be honest, like I want them to utilize him all the time, like they have been utilizing him a little bit. Like I think that he needs to have something like 7 or 8 targets a game. Crossers, these dig routes, 9 routes, whatever it is. Like he's a versatile weapon for this offense. I love him. Good job, Jameson. Jahmyr Gibbs continued his excellent play. He was great in the passing game. And if the Lions ever decide they truly want to go to a lot of 21 personnel looks on offense, I think that he's going to be a real weapon. Obviously I think that the Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs comparisons can be put to rest at this point. Like Jahmyr Gibbs is just amazing. Nice to see Tate Ratledge up here with a strong showing both in pass blocking and in run blocking. So remember, this is a Dallas defensive line that has Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, and they have a rookie quick pass rusher off the edge, Donovan Ezeraku from Boston College. And he held up real well against a stout interior Dallas defensive line. So that's a really good to see from Tate in this game. Dave Montgomery had a nice run, was good in pass protection, as was Jahmyr. Let me see. Pass blocking. Jahmyr Gibbs wasn't asked to do it. But Dave Montgomery did have a good day pass protecting as well, picking up blitz for Jared Goff, kept him clean. St. Brown came back with a 70. That's excellent. Jared Goff with a 70. That's excellent. Taylor Decker, just kind of your standard everyday good job. Now, just the opposite of Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker is a pass protector more so than he is a run blocker, and he excelled where he wanted to. Anthony Firkser had a nice game. I don't really know what else to say about that, except that, this is your third or fourth string tight end, who I'm starting to love. And here's the thing. Look at this run blocking grade for him. He was in the game for 48 snaps, 15 run blocking snaps, and he had almost an 88 grade on his run blocking. Like the last year, the Lions offense was 11 personnel, and they had a gigantic X wide receiver in Tim Patrick out there, almost as like another tight end on the edge. And Tesla is big. So and if he's going to be able to do this stuff and he's starting to get to it, I mean, he's going to have to see the field more. I know that Raymond didn't play in this game, but when Raymond comes back, you can't just cut Tesla's snap count in half. Like you have to he needs to be getting the lion's share of the snap count, I think, at wide receiver 3 now. Let's see. Tristan Colon, pretty decent. Had a hard time, but he is a backup's backup. Ross Dwelly also had a nice contribution in the pass blocking game. Tom Kennedy absolutely crushed it on kick returns. What a great job this guy did, putting the Lions in excellent field position to start. I was so impressed with Tom Kennedy, just a loyal practice squatter who just does whatever they want him to do. Like, it was so nice to see him get some great plays, and the team loved it. You could see him rally around him. Graham Glasgow did not have a great game. That's not a surprise. Skipper did not have a great game, but he was very good in pass protection. And Miles Frazier, who returned from injured reserve, is getting some of his first work of the season. He got in at guard, had a rough time, but considering that it's his first or second NFL game against Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams, it's not a surprise. So, but I'm glad to see that he got some snaps and we can start getting some tape on him and okay, this is what we want you to do, and coach him up, get him ready for next year. The Lions' depth at safety really needs to be highlighted because Avonta Maddox came in and just played wonderfully. Really, really good snaps from him in the absence of Kirby Joseph and once Branch went down. But this is he played the whole game. Aiden Hutchinson, I am on the opinion that Aiden Hutchinson needs a snap count now. He needs to be. He plays so many more snaps than other people at his position that I think that he's just getting worn out. And if you see that 28 grade right there, he's not tackling well. Now, part of that is that they don't really ask him to tackle well. They're just kind of here, let's light your hair on fire, go get the quarterback. But at Michigan, at least, he was an effective run defender as well. And I don't understand why his tackling has been so poor this season. But he had, I think ESPN credited him with 10 pressures. ESPN gave him 9. So, no, the other way around. ESPN gave him 10. PFF gave him 9. Got good snaps from Tyrus Wheat and Daniel Thomas, who might end up being the free safety this coming week against the Rams. DJ Reader continues to excel. We're going to talk about DJ Reader here in a little bit. Tyleik Williams had a nice game. Got some snaps. And Al-Quadin Muhammad had 3 sacks in this game, cleaning up on the opposite side of Hutch. And for whatever reason, and we could go and look at Al-Quadin Muhammad's snap counts over the last 5 or 6 games. They're just not playing him very much. I don't know why. They continue to want to rotate guys in that position opposite Aiden Hutchinson, and I don't understand it because Al-Quadin Muhammad has been pretty effective. And I think he's a guy that has played his way onto the roster next season, and maybe a starter. Maybe you need to abandon this kind of Marcus Davenport edge setting player across from Aiden Hutchinson and just put another pass rush over there and just go. And maybe you have to sacrifice a little bit of the run defense to the edge. And we're going to talk about this a little bit as well. Because we're going to do a mock draft because I like them and Mike can't say no. Jack Campbell also had a poor day tackling, but I continue to just love Jack Campbell and the progress that he has made. Rocky Sin, another backup depth piece, played really well. He had a good day tackling, good in run defense, not as good as in coverage, but still pretty good. Anzalone was there. I don't think he's going to be on the team next year. DJ Reed had a pick, but he also got beat several times. Excuse me. Oops, I still got some coffee left. Derek Barnes had a nice interception off of I believe it was a Meek Robertson tip pass off of George Pickens, who, and let me just say this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, George Pickens is an absolute bitch. And I love the fact that the Lions made him look so unbelievably mortal in this game, and that he was barking at the refs and so clearly frustrated. And I usually don't try and take joy in like other teams or other players' miseries, but for whatever reason with George Pickens, I sure did. Marcus Davenport, this looks like a guy. He got 40 snaps. Rodrigo only got in for 1 or 2 snaps. He did a nice job tackling. So Ali McNeil, you're down here again. Why? Because A, because you can't play run defense, and B, because what else are you doing that's good? I don't know. He's clearly coming back from an injury. He's starting to have good weeks versus bad weeks. When will they show up? We don't know. Hopefully he's just working himself back into the mix. Amik Robertson down here again. He made one nice play, but he got torched, and like when you're going up against, the aforementioned George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, who are excellent wide receivers, I don't expect him to be a shutdown corner, but I don't expect him to play this badly either. Like, very clearly, he's a dude that you can play. And then Roy Lopez and Trevor Nowatzki, and it kind of rounded out the defense a little bit. But all in all, a good effort from all 3 phases from the Detroit Lions. Really happy with how they performed. And they're going to go, and I think they're going to go play LA. And like, I think I say this so often, but I think it's because the Lions are 100% dependent on it, is the Lions have to be able to run the ball against the Rams. They have to do it to keep Matthew Stafford in that offense off the field for any amount of time whatsoever. And then they're going to have to, if I was them, I would pick one guy and say Puka or Devontae Adams is going to be open all game, and the other guy's getting double or triple teamed. And okay, Matt, like, we're going to take away one of your options. You have to beat us the whole game with the other one. Can you do it? And I would blitz Matthew Stafford all fucking day. So just because like the 2 or 3 times that you get there probably will end drives, and so I think it's just about like how can the Detroit Lions limit the number of sustained possessions that the Los Angeles Rams have. So it's not. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's crazy. The Rams are much better this year than I thought they would be. I thought they were going to be actively bad, and like that team is playing very, very well. And so hopefully the Lions come out of SoFi with a win. But okay, I am going to do a mock draft. Why am I going to do a mock draft? I'm not doing it because I think that it's going to be accurate compared to what the Lions are going to do. I'm just going to use it as a tool to discuss the state of the Lions roster. Okay, so if the playoffs were, how come there's an 18th team? You guys see this? Look at this. It goes from 17 to 19. Why is that? Is there a tie at 18? There's not 2 19s. There's not 2 17s. That's interesting. We'll do a 7-rounder. I will say I should probably have a rotation of mock draft simulators that we are using. Because the simulators are based upon the consensus boards that the websites come up with. And so like, it's just, there is no consensus at this point. You need to get through the combine. You need to get through the bowl games. You need to get through the East West Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl and all those different, like those kind of extra games that they have. So let's take a real quick look here at, is there a way that I can, there are a couple of players that I think the Lions should be after in this mock. And I think it's going to be largely dependent upon which quarterbacks come out. And the reason I say that is not because I think the Lions are going to draft a quarterback, but because the more quarterbacks that come out, the more picks in front of the Lions will be quarterbacks. And then that will push other non-quarterbacks down the board. Okay, so let's talk about the Detroit Lions just real quickly here. There's a number of players I want to talk about, and most of them come from Ohio State, unfortunately. I want to talk about this kid, Sonny Styles. Sonny Styles, 6'5", 240. So if you want to understand how big that is, that's Jack Campbell. Except that Sonny Styles is a will linebacker. Okay, so he plays where Alex Anzalone plays. Okay, first of all, let's highlight this. 13 games, 16 games, 13 games thus far. This number is going to go up with the playoff, right? So he has been healthy 3 years in a row, and then he's been really good, and now elite. In his age, I don't know exactly how old it is. I think he's like 21. But he is a converted safety who put on weight, right? So he was a big safety, 215 or 220, and has put on 15 or 20 pounds and has not lost his ability to run. So let me see if I can find like a little highlight package here where it's real quick to kind of figure out what is going on. Sonny Styles highlights. I think it's pretty crazy, like the way that, a clip, and I should always do this beforehand, but like I was hoping to find a clip of him running. Like I gotta share the screen here. This guy can run. Alex Anzalone. I like Alex Anzalone. I think he's a good player. I think that he is on the decline, and if the Lions want to keep the rosters and the salary cap in good shape, it's time for players like Alex Anzalone, who are naturally coming up on like their age 30 or 31 season and who have their contract situations up in the air, to at least test free agency, right? So I would at least allow Alex Anzalone to test free agency, and then with the hope that there's not a big market for him and that he would come back to Detroit on a really cheap deal, because he had a contract dispute with the Lions this last offseason and ended up coming to camp for the least amount of money or whatever it was. That it was like $25,000 or something. It was so little. And I can't believe that he held out over it or caved to it. But this guy plays where he plays. And putting Jack Campbell as a like old school, quote unquote, Mike linebacker who is good and can move, and then putting a guy like this who can run sideline to sideline, who is the same size as Jack Campbell, is crazy. Would be a crazy young linebacker duo in the NFL, and I think would probably give the Lions one of the best linebacking cores immediately in the NFL if these two guys got a chance to play together. So there's a couple things that I want to highlight here on Sonny Styles that I think is insane. He has an elite run defense grade. The Lions will love that. He has an elite coverage grade. The Lions absolutely need the ability to cover from the linebacking spot, and Alex Anzalone is good at that. This guy might be great at it, right? And the thing that I think the team desperately needs and looks for when it comes to players they want to add, he has not missed a tackle all season. He has a 0% missed tackle rate. Can't be better. So like the angles that he's taking, he's getting to the ball carrier and he's wrapping up and taking people down. This guy is awesome. And normally I would yell no linebacker in the first round, except that I would take this guy in this spot if I was the Detroit Lions. I would be thrilled to take this guy in the spot if I'm the Detroit Lions. Who else? TJ Parker. He is already declared for the draft. 6'3", 260. That's Al-Quadin Muhammad size. 15.4% pass rush win rate. Good pass, also good in run defense. 6 sacks, 12 sacks last year, 6 sacks this year in a season that Clemson probably wants to forget. I think that if you could plug this guy in across Aiden Hutchinson and be like, here you go. So what do? Do you re-sign Al-Qadim Muhammad? I would let Marcus Davenport test free agency. You know, you are going to lose Levi and Ruzarike. Josh Paschal is also a guy that I would let test free agency. You know, and then you might have, so if Josh Paschal and Marcus Davenport tested free agency and they don't return, if you took this guy, you might have a depth chart of TJ Parker, Ahmad Hassanein, and Al-Qadim Muhammad across from Aiden Hutchinson. And I like that idea way more than I like next year being like Marcus Davenport, Josh Paschal, and Ahmad Hassanein. So like, will Brad invest in that position depending on how the board falls? I mean, that's what we'll have to wait and see. So he lines up outside tackle. So I think that the Lions have neglected this part of the team since they drafted Hutch, and which sucks. Here's the other guy I want to talk about, Caden McDonald. Okay, so DJ Reader has been excellent for the Detroit Lions. He might also re-sign, and if they do, great. If they decide if they wanted to keep him, great. Here's the problem. This guy looks like the second coming of DJ Reader, right? And if you took him, DJ Reader is going to get snapped up in free agency. I don't know that he will net you a comp pick, but like Caden McDonald is 6'3", 326 in college. Yeah, and I'm sure that Ohio State has an excellent bodybuilding, like getting the body correct for what they want their football players to do. Kinesiology. There we go. That's what I wanted to say. I'm sure they have a good a really good kinesiology department at Ohio State to make sure that their players are in excellent physical condition. If this is how big he really is, and he moves like this, and like, I don't need him to be a pass rusher. I mean, DJ Reader doesn't pass rush, but look at his run defense grade is a 92.3. That is so good. And he stuffs the run. I wish that PFF indicated how often like defensive linemen, especially like nose tackle prospects, were getting double teamed, because this guy gets double teamed. This guy is a double team, and he is winning against double teams, you know? And like, I just think that if you take this guy, I don't know what the Lions do with Tyleik Williams. Like that pick last year felt so much like we're just going to take this guy because Aleem McNeil's hurt. That now that Aleem McNeil is back, I don't know what you do with Tyleik. You know, like I think that the normal thing would be to say Tyleik Williams is going to be the new DJ Reader. But they haven't played him very much, and when they have played him, they played him at 3-tech. So like next season looks kind of like his rookie, you know, except the next season you're going to switch positions, right? And so now you're going to ask him to do different things than he did last year. And you know, is it going to look like his rookie season all over again? And he's going to be playing a lot more snaps. Like I don't like it. Like I hope that they pick players that like fit into like their designed roles. I mean, there's almost too much versatility in the Lions defensive linemen, because everybody's like kind of like a little bit too big to play end and a little bit too small to play defensive tackle. and I'd rather that they just got away from it. And like this guy would be getting away from it. So I'm going to take Sonny Styles here just to like, let's make our linebacking core like close to elite, you know? So I would be, I think, jumping up and down if the Lions got Sonny Styles to pair with Jack Campbell. I think that would just be fucking great. Okay, so what do the Lions do in round 2? Now, remember, we don't have a third-round pick because we traded 3 of them for Isaac Taslat, who I also think probably gets a big bump in playing time next year because Khalif Raymond his contract is also up. I can't imagine. I mean, I imagine they probably sign him to a 1-year deal. I do think with Khalif's skill set that if they let him go to free agency, he's probably getting a contract day 1 from somebody, maybe day 2. So what do you do? We took a linebacker in round 1. There's a couple things I think you could do here. Let's talk about, we have talked about Emmanuel Pregnon a little bit. This is a big dude for Oregon. 6'5", has only played left guard. So, okay. But Drew, the Lions have Christian Mahogany at left guard. Yep. You know, and Christian Mahogany has been good. Maybe Christian Mahogany is the guy that you trained to take over from Graham Glasgow. And this is your new left guard. And it's just, here's a dude that's height, weight, speed, fit, played at Oregon. It's a big program, played against good competition in the Big Ten, and was great, you know. And so he's what the Lions want. He is a pass block first guard. He's excellent at zone blocking in the running game, so getting out and moving. The Lions love having that. So you could certainly see this guy getting pulled. Not as good against gap, but like when you play with, I think on the Lions offensive line, you're going to have a lot of help, you know. Has never given up a sack in college. So it's not the end all be all stat to look at for offensive linemen, but it's a good one. Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern, 6'7", 325. That is close to what Taylor Decker is, height, weight, speed. Pass blocking left tackle, you know, is how much longer does Taylor Decker have on the roster? Like, he is now pretty consistently hurt throughout the season, still playing pretty good. But at some point, like, is the war of attrition such that he's just like, I gotta call it. I'm tough, but I'm breaking down or whatever. So here is a guy that has played left tackle his whole career. He's got the right height, weight, speed. I know they have Giovanni Manu, who's in the running for, like, can this guy become a real NFL player? I think Giovanni Manu is the next Dan Skipper on this roster. Dan Skipper's contract is also up at the end of the year. And will they finally let Dan Skipper, retire and become a coach? Like, I would like Hank Fraley to have Dan Skipper as a coach on his staff. Would he come back? Would he accept a practice squad role? I mean, I don't know, but like, they've gone too long with this kind of like developmental project, will or they or won't they work out kind of thing. And like, this would be a very clear, this is your backup left tackle, this only gets picked if, like, I think if they have a conversation with Taylor Decker and Taylor's like, yeah, I can only really see myself going another year or two, and then having to go. So here's another question. We have some questions at safety. So what do we do? So sounds like Kirby Joseph's knee is never going to be fully healthy again, and he's just going to have to manage pain, which sucks. Sorry, I hate that is what happened to Kirby. But like, here is a coverage safety who has had a wonderful year on a bad LSU team. And he kind of plays all over. He plays deep, he plays the box, he plays the slot. You can line him up in a lot of different places. And like, he doesn't have elite. He's not an elite tackler, and he doesn't force a ton of incompletions, but he's an excellent coverage guy, and also pretty good in run defense. And if we look at him, he's 6 foot 220. That is a big safety. Like, I believe Kerby Joseph is like 6'1", 190. Brian Branch is hurt, so is this a guy that you can bring in and have him start? Because you're not going to have Brian Branch through most of next season. What will Kerby Joseph's knee look like next season? And then will guys like Nick Whiteside, Avonte Maddox, Rock Ya-Sin, Amik Robertson be back on the roster next season? They're all on expiring deals. And I think that the Lions would want to have some of those guys back. But like, if they have an opportunity, if the Lions are offering 1 year, whatever, and like Jacksonville comes knocking with like 3 years for like 6, 3 years, 3 years, 18, I would imagine a lot of those guys would take an opportunity to be a primary backup or a starter, and have a good contract than like a continuing 1 year deal in Detroit. So we're just going to have to wait and see. So like, but like now the safety position has some question marks to it. Will you take a safety? And then, so there's also Dylan Tiananmen from Oregon, another Oregon guy, safety. This guy, he played at Purdue for 2 years and then transferred to Oregon. That's kind of the world we live in now. 6 foot 200, so not nearly as big. Kamari Ramsey from USC, another Big Ten safety, another coverage guy. So this is another Kerby Joseph backup / replacement / help guy. And so like, what do you want? Like, do you want, those are all options. You could take Jake Slaughter, a center, except he's 6'4", 300. I don't know if this is an accurate weight for him, but I have heard that he is quite slim, and for movement reasons. Like, he's an excellent pass blocker. The Lions are going to like that. He's good in zone running, which is going to be good for Jahmyr Gibbs. But he suffers a little bit in gap, but he has played a lot of snaps at center for Florida, and like, do you just invest in a day 2 pick at center and just say, okay, like, we took, Christian Mahogany's coming back. He's going to be our left guard. We're going to take Slaughter, and then we basically run the line back, and Graham Glasgow becomes like our primary backup next season, or, what do you do? Like, which hole do you plug? And so like, I tend to think that the O-line is the area that you need to make Jared Goff the best that he can possibly be. And like, I think that he's the biggest impact on this offense. Jared Goff, that is. So like, to me, I would probably take this guy, Pregnon, and say, I took Tate Ratledge in round 2 last year. I took Pregnon this year. We have a pair of guards that are going to develop that are pretty good over the next 3 years together. And we are going to figure out center. We will trade for Eric McCoy. We would sign Luke Fortner. Will Connor McGovern leave Buffalo? There might, center is a position that ends up in the free agency pool. So there will be an option for Detroit, I think, to sign in free agency. Could they make a trade? Do they go to the draft and invest a day 1 or day 2 pick, probably a day 2 pick, on a center? So here we are now in round 4. We have taken a linebacker and a guard. So not the kind of draft that I typically enjoy doing, because I like, positional value is kind of my first love, that kind of thing. All right, so here we have Keon Saab, who is a 6'1", 200-pound safety for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Started his career at Michigan. Excellent in coverage, not so good at run defense. Good tackler. you know, kind of lines up all over the field for Alabama. You know, so like, is Keon Saab a potential starter? Is he a potential backup piece long term? You know, if Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph are both healthy, like, is this a good like 3 safety look kind of player for the Lions? I think that he could be. Xavier Scott, you know, like, people, for whatever reason, people seem to think that Terrion Arnold isn't good or whatever. I disagree. I think that he's just had to adjust to the NFL in his rookie season. B, was hurt all this season with some kind of nagging injury. Like, we haven't seen a healthy season of an adjusted Terrion Arnold yet. And like, I think Terrion Arnold's good. I think that Terrion Arnold is it. So, but like, what's the shoulder look like? You know, DJ Reed has been hurt this season, had a hamstring. And then, you know, once again, does Amik Robertson, does Rock Ya-Sin, you know, leave in free agency? This guy is a man coverage corner. Illinois has produced good defensive backs, you know, at the NFL level, you know. So like, he's hurt clearly, so it sounds like a Detroit Lion right off the bat. What else? Who else do we have down here? Yeah, I'm going to take this guy from Illinois. You know, he's you know, a developmental guy, or you know, he's going to be a replacement for somebody like him. I think in his late 20s, he's played well at times for the Lions, and you know, I think that he has said, like, if there is a cornerback needy team out there, you could talk yourself into Amik Robertson on like a 3-year deal for like, could he get $8 million a year? You know, I don't think Detroit would match that. Okay, so here we are in round 5. Now there's some quarterbacks on the board. Carson Beck, Cade Klubnik. Cade is 6'2", 210. I think that he's a guy that you could plug into the Detroit Lions offense as a backup, like, and lose Kyle Allen and say, we're going to at least take a look at you for development in case the worst happens to Jared Goff. Carson Beck, 6'4", 220. That's closer to Jared Goff's size. Not as good under pressure, not as good overall as Cade Klubnik. He played at Georgia and Miami. He's going to have the college football playoff to put some more film on tape. Nope, let's put some more game on film. There we go. Here's Kenyatta Jackson. I don't understand why PFF has him ranked this low. 6'6", 265. Good pass rush win rate, good run defender. I think that he would be in play here for the Lions. So what have we done here? Our picks. We have gone linebacker, guard, corner. So I am going to just do a really quick check here real quick. I'm going to take Kenyatta Jackson from Ohio State. Ohio State has an embarrassment of excellent defensive players. They even have a kid, the guy that I like the most on their team, Caden Curry. I don't think will come out in this class, but that is a dude that I'm already looking at for next year, which looks like 2027, if everybody comes out, might be the best draft class I've seen in my lifetime. Let's see. Did we take a center? No. So I'll take Logan Jones. Yeah, Logan Jones. 6'3", 302. So not exactly this height, weight, speed, but a good pass blocker, good in zone, played 3 years, went to Iowa, so you know they like him. He's a center all the way. So if he's on the board here, which he might not be, you know, but like he's here on this one, so we'll take him. Now we have either a backup or we have a plan in place for the future of the position. We did not take a quarterback, right? I don't want to hear anything about Diego Pavia. Nothing. Jermaine Matthews is not going to come out in the draft. He's going to go back to Ohio State. All right, here's a guy, Marlon Klein. His stats aren't great, but he's 6'6", 250. He has had awful quarterback play at Michigan in his time there. But like, I think that if you put a guy like that in an offense with a player like Jared Goff, and he's like your Shane Zylstra replacement, so your tight end 3, maybe he's your tight end 2 at some point. Like, I really like that. There's a guy, once again, from Ohio State. I think his name's Kaz Merrick. He's their tight end. He's like 260. Like, I kind of want that guy, but like you don't need to spend it's round 6. We'll see if they put him in the simulator. Tight end, Ohio State. Nope. He's not in there yet. But I think he's coming out, and I think that he would be somebody that I would be pretty interested in. Josh Hoover, 6'2", 200, so he's pretty small. I think that, like, I don't know. I would be, if I was the Detroit Lions, I would be investing in seeing what happens if I can develop another quarterback. What they tried to do with Hendon Hooker, and it didn't work out. Spears Jennings, 6 foot 213. Oh, he's just played and not been very good. He's a good run defender. So this would be the Brian Branch backup / replacement. Probably a good special teamer. I don't believe that we have taken a safety. Nope. Yeah, so I'll take this guy. And so there's a special teamer or maybe a safety. Oh, that was... Here we go. But like, so the issue the Lions have is that there's just not a lot of available spots for people to be drafted into, because most of their starters are set, like there's 1 or 2 open starting spots. Then we're talking about backups and developmental players for the rest of the roster, and so like I would be looking for the Lions to try and build out, the rest of their roster with like first contract guys, as opposed to signing 1-year veterans. But I mean, you do need veterans on the team. Don't know who I would go with here. Craig Reynolds is no longer on the team, so you could look at a running back as like a running back 3, running back 4 kind of guy. So who's Bryson Washington? 6 foot 2. Let's just take this guy. But like, I think something like this, we don't need a wide receiver. I don't know what you're recommending that. Something like this, I think, puts the Lions in like a pretty good spot heading into the next season. And like, we're just using the draft as like a way to talk about the roster. So, I mean, if the Lions get Sonny Styles in round 1, I would just be flipping ecstatic. Let's see what's going on here. So, guys that I like in round 1 for Detroit, I like that I think that they could realistically like fall to them, or they could potentially be in range to trade up for, would be Keldrick Falk from Auburn, David Bailey from Texas Tech, Mansour Delane, I think would be a guy that I'd be interested in. Obviously, Sonny Styles. TJ Parker is somebody I'd be interested in. Vega Ione is somebody that I would be interested in. LT Overton, Caden McDonald are all players that I think would be on the quote unquote Lions board. So that's where we're gonna end the show for today. The Lions are at the Rams, 4:30 Sunday. I'll be going to my nephew's birthday party, which is going to be sick because he's turning 6 and I bought him a bunch of Pokemon stuff. And hopefully I will be able to see him open his gifts and then see the Lions beating the Rams. But even if they don't, what we know then is the Lions have to beat the Steelers and the Vikings, which they should be able to do. And then they have to go to Chicago end of the year to probably make the playoffs. So the playoffs are in reach. Can the Lions get it? We'll be back here next week to discuss it. Until then, have a great day. Bye.